Members of the company, this is your Places call. Places, please. Places for the top of the podcast. Places, please.
Get ready for a behind-the-scenes look at the glitz and not-so-glam of Broadway, education, and everyday life with Uncommon Sense. Join hosts Christopher Smith and Sharna Lopez as they bring you the best stories and shenanigans that seemingly prove how elusive common sense can really be. So take a little time for yourself to hang out with the dynamic duo Charnopher. And no leaving early, because you might just miss that 11 o'clock number.
Stand by music. Music, go.
Uncommon sense, the 11 o'clock number. And we are Charnopher.
You messed up my counting. Oh my gosh, that was so funny.
I took a sip of coffee and it just didn't taste great.
Yeah.
And then I made a weird face.
It was a stink face. It was like when you give a dog peanut butter and they're like blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, like 50,000
but
times.
they actually like it.
Yeah.
They just, yeah.
Right.
That just didn't.
You did
didn't
not
taste
care
great.
for it.
Didn't taste great.
Let's be real. Oh my gosh.
Hello, Charno fans. Hello, Charno fans. Hello.
Hello.
You can't see. I just did like a jazz hand to my face.
Hand.
If you can't see us, we are a little bit themey today for our Wicked recap review, all things Wicked
Part 1
podcast episode.
Because
we have to. I have a green sweater and my green fingernails for Elfie, and then I have a little baby witch's hat. And Christopher,
I like that we're
has, like,
both
a cape
Elphaba.
jacket.
So I have like a cape.
I mean,
cape
who else
thing.
would we be?
I know, right?
I'm sorry.
And then
No,
my pointy hat.
I already have too
sans
many
point.
Galindas in my life.
Oh,
I know.
And
That's
I do
okay.
have.
You're still wearing a hat.
I do have a mug that says, "Don't make me call the flying monkeys." And then the other side
And then show them the other side. It's really cute.
is Wicked
And then
with
it has
just the
Wicked.
witch legs in white
I like
and
it.
black stripes.
And ruby red slippers.
And ruby red slippers, which
like it.
we will talk about. So
Yes, we will. Can I give a disclaimer though? Like, because
Yeah.
we're starting, we may or may not have a special guest join us this morning. However, we wanted to start because I already know any topic. It could literally be like the color of the sky or squirrels
Purple?
versus chipmunks. I don't know. And Christopher
Okay.
and I will talk for 7 years. But in this particular subject, I feel like we could have a 7-part episode. So
Yeah.
we went ahead and started without our guests, and we're hoping that our guests will make it on. So I'm not going to say who until we see.
hopefully they appear.
Is that okay? Yeah. But we're going to just start.
Maybe they'll travel in via bubble. I don't know.
Actually, that was one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Yeah, that's actually.
So honestly, when I was thinking
yeah,
about like doing this,
Mhm.
I was like, where are we going to start?
I know.
Yeah, because I have so many things I want to discuss. And what I think,
Mhm.
if you'll follow me along, clearly we're not prepared, everybody. Clearly we're doing
I'm
this as we go.
prepared, but
No, I mean, like, we don't have a plan. I kind of want to do a general how we each felt about the movie.
okay,
Like a general.
yeah,
Is that cool?
That's
and then
totally fine.
and then we could like
Explore.
go back and pick it and full disclaimer, everybody who's listening, I am one of those people that everyone is allowed to have their own opinion. And this episode in this podcast is not meant to, we are not the end all be all or have the authority on what this movie means to whomever. So everybody can love, hate, indifferent, whatever it is, but this is just our experience and opinion with Wicked.
yeah.
The movie,
Disclaimer, Part 1. Wicked, Part 1. So I want to start with the fact that the movie is as long. The Part 1 of the movie is as long, if not longer, than the stage production. And I went
Correct.
into it
How do we
going,
feel about that?
this is absolutely ridiculous and self-indulgent, and I am already irritated by that exact fact.
Okay.
So, but I tried to put it aside because I was like, it was the same way I felt when I heard Ariana Grande, of all humans in the planet, were cast as Glinda. And I was like, I mean, I know that Steven Schwartz is producing it and behind all the things. And so he must see something that I don't know about, which is great. So I was like, I'm going to reserve judgment as much as possible. And then I'm glad I did, because I thought she was great, which we'll get more into. But the length, I was like, okay. I didn't actually feel that it was overly long. I know I mentioned to you that I feel like they could have probably shaved off a good 15 minutes, probably.
Yeah, I agree.
But overall, I thought it was, there was only a couple of points where I'm like, hello, carry on. And then I did laugh.
Some of the shots were held a little long.
Yeah.
And I've seen it twice. And I was telling Christopher before we started, I actually really enjoyed my experience the second time more because I felt like I could pay attention a bit more to certain things. And there were a handful of times that I was like, okay, we got the shot. Okay, move it along. There were a couple times.
Yeah.
And both of us, when we saw each other in my office after the first time we had seen the movie, the first thing out of my mouth was, actually really liked it. Could have been 20 minutes shorter. And Christopher was like, oh my gosh, I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, I really didn't think I would care about the part one part of it. We will get to more on that in a little bit, my real feelings. But I do think it was just a little long. And I'll agree with you that it wasn't like, oh gosh, when is this going to be over? It just felt a smidge long.
Yeah.
A smidge long for me.
And I did find it also amusing. Also, if you have not seen the movie, you need to not listen to the rest of this episode, FYI.
Yes, correct.
Until you see the movie. Come
if you
back
don't want
and listen.
spoiler alerts.
So what I was going to say, though, is I did find it amusing that for all the drawn out scenes and extra time spent places, we skip over an entire period of time with like little to no explanation between Glinda and Fiyero. Because all of a sudden at the train station, it's an undetermined amount of time since Glinda and Fiyero and Elphaba and Fiyero had all their things. And she's like, he's been so distant and like something's off. I'm like, well, how much time has passed? It's been like 1 second. What are you talking about? And
they didn't do a good job of establishing the time passage there.
Yeah.
I get that from a writer's standpoint, that actually is a good space to omit, but it would have been helpful, especially for people who don't know the story, right? To be like, wait, what? Like to explain that a little bit more.
Yeah,
I agree.
Now, the funny thing is, I have to say that I didn't even catch that one when it happened because, again, I know the story so well that I clocked it. But my brother was the one that was like, he knows the story too, but he's like, hey, let's talk about that for a minute. But yeah.
Right. And I think that's because the focus in the movie was the whole getting her to Oz, right? So that you see Madame Morrible write the letter, and then the cute little Oz balloon comes with the walrus, which I thought was so cute.
So cute.
And there is some sort of strange skip in the story, just in that area. It felt like it was the place they chose to skip, which is fine. Again, I mean, I don't need more minutes on that movie.
No.
But I also go back and forth with the part one, part two.
Yeah.
Jerry was kind of like not indifferent about it, but most people I've spoken to, they're like, Sharna, are you kidding me? It's the best marketing ploy and the best moneymaker idea ever. Like, if they did this much marketing with Wicked 1 and everyone went cuckoo for it and everyone's going to see it multiple times and everyone loves it, I think we sort of live in this musical theater Wicked world. But this is so much bigger than that now, right? And so people don't, if they've seen the musical, they know what's coming. But if they haven't, then they don't really know any different, right? And from a business standpoint, I think it was really smart. For me, from a Sharna Wicked storyline character arc standpoint, I was really, really annoyed. Because Act 2 is so important to the storyline. And I know that's just me. I know that, again, the majority, it's funny. Again, we are theater people and we live in that theater world. So most people that we're around know Wicked or have seen it on stage multiple times, but many people haven't, right? Like even Sebastian, yeah, it took him and he's like, oh, well, he didn't care. He doesn't care that that's the end of the movie because he doesn't know what's coming next.
Yeah.
But in my brain, it's like, we didn't get the whole thing. We didn't get the whole thing. And I think it's like the redeeming part, you know what I mean? Like, and we will get it eventually.
Another
but
year.
yeah, that was a little tough. That was a little tough for me. That and I the first time I saw it, I did not love Ariana Grande. Now,
okay.
I was like you.
Uh-huh.
I was pleasantly surprised actually at how much I did like her. But I think because I was like so enamored with Cynthia Erivo. I thought her performance in this movie, and the second time I saw it, it was even more. I was just like, what? Like when she sings The Wizard and I was just like in my seat, like, like I'm just like, she's so good. But I will say the second time I saw it, Ariana she grew on me.
Yeah.
She grew on me. And I think, and I can tell you, I think why.
Okay.
We know my sister, Kelly Feldhaus, and our very good friend, Shannon Mills Habelow, both played the role of Glinda on the tour of Wicked. I've seen the stage production of Wicked at least 5 times. My sister being one of the Galindas, but other Galindas who were very
with a G.
The G is silent. Very over the top comedic. And I liked that. But I also think it's the only way I had seen it done.
Right.
So when Ariana wasn't that way, I was sort of like, oh, I miss that like super quirky Galinda side. But then I let her like
Marinate.
I let it be. Oh, this is her. And then it was like the second time I saw it, I was like, okay, I see her bits of comedy more, and I actually appreciate it. I think she plays it well. I think she sings it beautifully. There are a couple times where I wish somebody had told her to open her mouth a little bit, where she's just singing like this, and I'm like, just relax your jaw.
Yeah.
But I honestly was pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed her.
Yeah. No, well, I agree. And also like I just thought she totally studied Kristen Chenoweth. Like the moment she opened her mouth at the top of the show, I was like, Kristen? Anyone? Hello?
Yeah.
And just like her affect and the way she placed her sound and everything like that just felt very Kristen to me.
No, that could be. I just think acting wise, there were some comedic moments for me that didn't land as much as they do on stage, which is funny because I think in a movie, you even have a better chance to get their facial expressions and see. And so some of the stuff that in the musical, I remember like laughing out loud at.
Yeah.
I was like, like it wasn't. There are a couple moments though, like when she gets on the train, and I know they use that in the trailer.
Yeah.
That one makes me laugh every single time. That one's delivered so well. A few things like that.
Yeah.
But even the end of Popular, I actually liked the change at the end of Popular. I liked that I actually liked the musical changes except for one, which we'll talk about because I know you and I agree. But when she says, "You're welcome," it's one of my favorite funny lines in the show.
Yeah.
When she's like, "I have to go," and she's like, "You're welcome," almost like,
hello.
She doesn't, and it's not funny. Like in the movie, she's just like, "You're welcome," and I'm like, "Well, did anybody give you direction?" Like, but then, she moves into the next part, and it's funny.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a again, I liked it better the second time, to be honest.
Yeah. So I just.
But if I were to rate it,
if
you were to rate it at 1 through 10, what would you give the movie?
In comparison or standalone?
Standalone.
That's very difficult. I would say probably an 8.5.
Okay. I think I'm right about there. 8.5 or 9.
Yeah.
I really liked it. What about choreography? How did you feel about the choreography?
So I actually really liked the choreography. I was enamored with a couple spots, like in the library. I was like, what's happening on all of the rotating things? I'm like, how did someone not die? How did everyone not die, actually?
That was really cool.
And
have you seen any of the behind the scenes on that?
I haven't watched the I know there's that like
It's really cool.
documentary on Netflix, I think, or something. I haven't watched it all yet.
Yeah. I haven't watched that, but just even on Instagram, there's all these reels going around. Some of it's really, really, really cool. I agree. That number's done really well.
And I mean, I liked the thing, for some reason, the social media one, what is it? Where she's walking through the halls with like
And
the
what
books.
is this feeling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
She's
one,
doing her
like
little
everybody's
thing.
got to do the dance. I was like, what is this? Why did that, of all things, that picks up on TikTok?
Right?
So funny to me. But I like
know.
it.
The one number that I really rewatched the second time, because the first time it was too much for me, was Emerald City.
Yeah.
Or One Short Day.
The one where it's just so much happening in the city. So much happening.
There's so much going on. And there are some moments in that I'm like, this choreography doesn't feel like it fit. There's so many different sections, and some of it feels one way and some of it feels another way. And that is the only one for me that felt a little disjointed in places.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple sections of choreo that I'm like, this doesn't feel like it fits in this number. But that whole song as a whole, just all up, like the water dancing, those guys in their little outfits, the people on stilts, like the whole thing is magical. However, probably the one thing that I cannot stand about the movie, and this is unfortunate, and this is just me. The section they wrote in for Idina and Kristen Chenoweth.
I was going to ask you about this.
Firstly, I love them both. And I'm actually really glad that they included them. I think it was a very nice touch. I think I didn't really care about that part of the song. It just sounded kind of stupid, if I'm being honest. It was like, we got all this amazing, cool music. And then it was like, let's write this weird, random show choir moment for Idina and Kristen. And then the second time I watched it, I was like, did they pull Idina's wig out of the dumpster? Like, what has happened? Christopher, go back and just like, when you get a chance, just search that section.
And see if I can
Poor
watch
girl. She looks like she got done run over by a bus.
Wow.
I'm like, could you give her a better, the wig is horrible. And her makeup. I don't know what was happening with her. And even Kristen Chenoweth's wasn't great. And the sad thing is, they're both phenomenal.
Yeah.
They're both wonderful. And I just felt like that section landed way too short for me. I was like, well, interestingly
it's
enough,
in One Short Day. So
it was one long day for that number for me. But Sebastian was a little confused. He was like, what are they? The wizard, like he came in and he was reading it because they're trying to like explain it in that section of the song. And I think it's kind of too much. I think it was over directed, over choreographed. Like it was a little much for me.
A little much. Yeah, I think that might be the one. I didn't love that section musically, but like you, I loved that they made an appearance in the movie. Them. I wish they would have found, again, like you, I wish they would have found a better way to incorporate them. He's arrived. He's arrived, everyone.
Y'all, if you aren't watching and you're listening, our special guest has arrived.
Yeah.
And it's just like this magical moment of a pink blazer with a green shirt appearing and a pink cup.
It's the Glinda cup.
Look at my Elfie hat.
So
this seems like a perfect time to just transition into. We said at the top of our episode that we might have a guest joining us, and now we can introduce you. Mr. Tylor Jenkins has returned to the pod.
Yeah,
Return to Oz.
Yes, Return to Oz. Not a good movie, but
hi, Tylor.
Hello.
Welcome back.
To see
you. Thanks. Glad to be back on the pod.
The pod.
We love it here.
Well, we kind of did like each of our personal like mini reviews of the show, of the movie.
Okay.
And then we sort of started getting into some specifics of things we liked or didn't like. And we can probably jump in and recap, but I would love to just jump right to that, Tylor, and kind of get your overall generic review of Wicked, the movie part 1.
Love it. Overall, loved it. There's a reason. Well, one, I've seen it twice and I'm going to see it more.
Yeah.
But the first time I had to go by myself, there was no option. I had to be in the back row of a Regal in row F, seat 3. We'll never forget it.
Of a Regal.
And I am sitting there in tears, audibly like at some points laughing. It was a moment I needed for my own mental health.
What was the part? There were two parts that made me cry. What was the part that made you get to that crying point?
The first one, I'm sorry. The choreography in What Is This Feeling is
That's what
phenomenal.
we were just talking about how much we liked that number. Yeah.
It was so insanely. The way they filmed it in the beginning, I was a little scared. The side by side.
Ooh, okay. And the second time I saw it, I liked that even more. I think the first time you're seeing something, it's all just coming so quickly, and you're like, oh. The second time I saw it, I actually thought, that I forgot that they did that, and I really liked it. The side by side. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed that. Once we got to the and I will be loading for. I know the choreography. Don't worry,
Yeah.
I've already learned.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
Phenomenal.
He's so excited.
The next, it's so good. The next time, okay, this was a mini tier.
Okay.
Was
a single tier.
Cynthia sitting on a bench? She's sitting on this bench going, "Blithe smile, blithe land." I'm like, oh, who gave you the right?
Oh,
that was an option. It was so good.
I was telling Christopher, I feel like she can do no wrong in my eyes now. I've never seen her in anything else. I've never seen her on stage. Live, right? I mean, I've seen video clips or whatever.
Okay.
But I was like fully obsessed with her in this movie. Like everything about her and the choices she made, they were not crazy. They were not, it was perfection for me to see and hear her. Oh, I thought her acting was so good. I just loved her. I loved her. Another crying moment for me was the Ozdust whole scene with her dancing. I could not. Did you guys know that Ariana did not know the dance?
Yes.
They didn't teach it to her on purpose.
I did not know that.
Which I love. I think that's so smart and clever because obviously in a musical, they got to learn it even if they try the first time, right? They know it after that. And to really have to act to pretend like you don't. But I think that made it like so, I love that scene. I love that scene in the movie.
So
that one made me cry.
I love that scene too. I do think, and maybe that was the intention, I felt like it was too long.
That scene?
Mm-hmm. And the whole dance build
like
up.
Just the dancing part or the whole thing?
No, just the dancing part.
So I couldn't remember in the musical. I don't think that whole Madame Morrible thing isn't there. How Madame Morrible comes and gives her the wand.
Yeah.
That's not in the musical. And I think that they set that up to give a good motivation and a good kind of backstory for Glinda in that moment to feel even worse. But in the musical, I don't think that happens.
I don't think so either. I mean, it's been a minute since I've seen it, but I also feel like they underplayed her magic in the movie versus
Morrible?
No, Glinda.
I don't even really remember her doing magic in the musical. I don't know. Now I feel like I can't wait to see the musical again.
Yeah.
I don't think she has the power, like any sort of magic, until Act 2 when she's with the wizard and it's like the whole technology thing.
That's what I think too, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
But I will say, I thought the Ozdust, I thought that scene, I liked that camera-wise, like the difference between how that scene on stage makes you feel and how that scene makes you feel in a film, I think is really different because there's no way you could ever have a close-up shot of Elphie with tears coming down her face on the stage.
Yeah.
And I think that it was much more moving. I thought it was really well done. I just felt like it's interesting how much of a statement this movie made. Obviously the musical was a big deal, but I think because the movie reaches the masses, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It was good. Okay, Tyler, what did you think of Ariana? We already had our discussions on her.
I have said this since day one. I was scared.
So is
Scared.
Christopher.
Yep.
Scared for her. And the
I wasn't
only
scared for her. I
You were
was
scared for her.
us.
I love that. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I'll pay my money. I'm gonna watch it anyways. I'm scared for her in the backlash.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's more where I'm like, oh, you bet. Come on, 13. Your 13 training better be pulling through right now, Ariana. Please. Um, I was pleasantly surprised.
Mhm.
All of us said both of us said
Yeah.
the exact same thing. I was pleasantly surprised, but not blown away. Christopher actually
I really
liked
liked
her
her.
performance. The second time I saw it, I liked her more. When I
Yep.
kind of was like, this is her Glinda, okay, and I could settle in. But all of us across the board pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
She was funny.
Yeah.
I always think it's fun when I mean, this even is on Broadway too, when different performers come in and they're like, oh, here's like the outline of Glinda, here's the outline
Mhm.
of Elphaba, but then here's where you can play and make it your own.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I was expecting out of her to
Fair.
make Glinda her own. It wasn't what I was expecting, but it also did fall within the parameters of who Glinda was.
I like that analysis because I couldn't pinpoint. I was telling Christopher, excuse me, I think in my mind and the way I've seen it played several times by different actresses on stage is much more comedic, like way goofier.
Mhm.
And so when she wasn't giving me that, I was a little annoyed at first because I think that huge juxtaposition between the stoic, whatever Elfie moment, especially in the beginning with Miss Galinda, who is, I think they directed Ariana, or she just made the choice to be much more the focus about her being so beautiful and into herself, which is part of Glinda. But I also think Glinda has to be the one everybody loves. She's so funny. Everyone in class, oh, she's so great. I didn't get that from her. I didn't see her as being like the class clown and the class leader and everybody. Like even when she says, oh, the artichoke is steamed, like that moment, it should be like the coolest kid on campus saying something funny. And I didn't get that. And I think that's what I missed, that like leader confidence, not just with Fiero, right? Not just with her looks, but like entirely. And again, maybe that's just not how she played it and I didn't dislike it, but I felt like that piece was missing for me.
Copy paste. That's great.
But Tylor, were you not, because all three of us, again, I was like, please just don't be like the worst version. Just don't be the worst version. And then I was like, the first scene and the bubble, and she had some little moments, and I was like, okay. I will say, like, popular, all of those things she does in that number, I think they sort of, instead of focusing on her physical comedy in that number, which is how it is on stage, it was like the things, right? What's all of the gadgets and the stuff we can put in her room, which, you know, is a different choice. But yeah, I am interested to see part 2 with her because, as I was telling Christopher, act 2 of the story is where she really has a lot of acting moments that are very crucial and important. So I'm interested to see what that does. What do you guys think of the wizard? We haven't talked about the wizard.
We haven't talked about the wizard.
Uh-oh. Tyler's face looks like it might be my face.
I would also like to say, so I actually really like Jeff Goldblum in general. And so
Same. Do you like him in the movie Wicked?
I want it to be more like
Right.
the wizard and not I.
I couldn't get I wasn't certain what his character was, right? I think I also like Jeff Goldblum. I do. I think, like, I've seen him in several things I actually really like. I understand the idea of wanting to get somebody like him that the mainstream public knows who that is. He's an iconic face. I get that. It's the entire performance for me from him seemed like he forgot his lines. It was like, can you read this book? You can read this.
Okay, now I need to go back and watch it.
Wanted children.
That's
like
hilarious.
I was sort of like, buddy, get in there, you know?
But
And
I
again,
think that
how
was
much of that is
just
direction?
his...
How much of that is a choice?
I know. I just feel like that's kind of him, though. Like, if he
Yeah.
in life would be doing that, that's what it would be.
I will start off by saying I do like Jeff Goldblum too. I do.
However,
I do. However, someone brought this up to me the other day because I've talked about this movie too many times. And a valid point, in my opinion, was brought up, which is there's no way the people of Oz actually believed this man could read the Grimoire.
Right?
Like, you
Because he
just
can barely
look
remember
at
his dialogue.
him, yeah, how he presents himself, how he talks. Like, there's no way you just fooled like an entire group of people when this is how you are. Like, it wasn't
yeah,
convincing.
I think what it is, it gives the Nutty Professor vibe versus the like Ozian King magical master
Yeah.
vibe.
So I don't know if you guys saw, I'm going to get the name wrong, but there's so many Easter eggs in the movie with the guy. There's a very specific one when they're in the tower part at right during Defying Gravity. There's like a poster.
Mm-hmm.
I think Diggs,
Mhm.
something. I can't remember the name. Anyway, that is Oz in his former life, a younger Oz when he was a magician. And so I read this whole article, and I think, Tyler, now that you mentioned that, you're right in that this side of him, this sleazy car salesman sleight of hand, he does the one thing with the coin with her ear,
Mhm.
but you do miss that piece of his personality. That's how in the book and in the movie, he, like, if you read the backstory, they took it out of the movie, the original Wizard of Oz, but he was like a traveling sleight of hand magician and smoke and mirrors kind of guy, obviously with a giant gold head that you get that. But I think once he steps out, that character should still be there. And now that you point that out, Tyler, that actually, I agree.
Yeah, it's
Like, he
part.
just seems like, meh.
Yeah, it's part of his name. Oz the Great and Powerful.
Yeah.
It's like, where was that second half? I got the
Yeah.
Oz. I got that much.
Yeah.
Great and powerful. It wasn't reading for me.
Especially, you know, again, we also talked about it, them only doing act one. I would have preferred to have the whole show because I think it creates a better storyline and the whole arc and everything. Because, like, Sebastian, again, we've already done like 3 disclaimers. Don't listen to this if you haven't seen the movie or you don't know part 2 or whatever. But like, Sebastian hasn't seen Wicked on the stage. And so he has no idea that Oz is her dad. He has no idea that Bach is going to become the Tin Man. He has no idea that Fiyero is going to become the Scarecrow. All these things that are so dang important to me, to the story, that are not there. And I told Christopher, like, maybe it's just because we know the story, and if you don't know it, you don't care. But then you don't watch it the same. So Sebastian is just
Yeah.
like, that's the wizard guy. And he's like, oh, the yellow brick road, which I thought that was cute.
Yeah.
But he was just like, I'm not going to tell him, right? I didn't say anything. But even Jerry was like, well, yeah, they don't know that. So they're watching it differently. You're watching the whole thing differently when you don't
Absolutely.
know what's coming. Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you guys think of the yellow brick road thing and the moon? I kind of liked that. I thought that was cute.
It was very like Fantastics to me, but I liked it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it had that
I
like
didn't think about that.
fantasticky, like whimsical
With a shadow.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was. I loved the Yellow Brick Road moment.
Yeah.
I would have never thought that Glinda was going to be at the time, Glinda.
Yeah. The G is
decide-
silent.
The guy is silent.
The
It's a
G
great
in honor
line.
of Dr. Dillman, of course. But yeah, I wouldn't have thought, because I don't know how it is in the book, which I'm actively reading.
Mhm.
I'm not 100% sure how that. I don't know if that was a movie choice or a book choice.
I don't know. To be honest with you, I tried to read the book Wicked years ago, right when the musical came out. I couldn't read it. I don't know if it's because I was younger. I don't know. I want to try and reread it. I haven't read it, so I'm not sure. Something I do think that they do talk about in the book a lot, because I read the beginning, and this was one thing that you can't do on stage and you can do in a film, was including the animals. And I thought that actually was really cool, because that whole scene with Dr. Dilliman and the other animals, you that's not in the musical, number one, because we're not having, a meerkat or whatever. And Dr. Dilliman, obviously in the musical, is a human and he just has like goat features. I actually really liked that they could make them animals because it made the whole animal thing, I think, more important. And then in the beginning, when like the nursemaid was a bear and they had like, you saw the inclusion of animals in their society. So it made a bigger difference when Dr. Dilliman was silenced. Whereas in the musical, you're just like, oh, there's a man with a goat head and a hoof. And you don't, to me, you don't feel that same connection. Ooh, one part I really loved. I just thought about it right now. It was like one of my favorite parts in the whole movie. See, this is going to take 9 hours. Okay. When she does the poppy spell on accident in the classroom, I thought that was super cool. And I loved the little tip to the forwardness of like, oh, when they put them to sleep with the poppies in Wizard of Oz. And I was like, oh, I loved that. And the fact that the spell didn't go on him.
Yes.
On Fiyero.
Which
I loved that part a lot. I thought that was really cool. Can we talk about Fiyero? Thoughts?
We can.
Oh, Jonathan Bailey, what you do to my mind, body, and soul. What can't? What can't Jonathan Bailey
So this
do?
is Tylor's section.
What?
Carry on, Tylor.
What can't he? What? There's nothing. There's nothing he can't do. Ooh. The fact that this man, because my introduction was very late in the game. It was during Bridgerton was my introduction to him.
This is my first introduction to him. I've never seen him in anything. This is my first time.
So good. The fact that he's on set for Bridgerton, I think it's season 3. I've lost count. Maybe it's 2. I don't know. But on set actively learning this choreo just to come in and be like, okay, let's do it. Like, that's a professional. That's what you should be doing. But, I cannot imagine learning that by myself.
I thought, so you're saying he didn't learn it with everybody else?
He learned it while he was filming Bridgerton.
Okay. And then he just came in to shoot it.
Essentially. There was like overlap too, where they did have rehearsals all together, but
I loved his movement. What I loved about him is he didn't seem super dancey, but he was super capable, which I love that when it doesn't look like, and now I'm dancing, he really had a good sort of like pedestrian version, but with flair. And you could tell that he has training, right? Something that I thought was funny, and Christopher, I think I told you this in our office, and then I kind of backtracked myself. The initial time we meet him, he seems old. And the funny thing is, he's the same age. They're all kind of in this same, Ariana and Cynthia. They're all within 5 or 6 years of each other, I think. But there was something about him. I don't know if it was a maturity, because he doesn't look old. He just felt older. He felt like he should be teaching at the college, at Shiz, not as a student. And so at first I was like, oh, did they just choose him because he's like heartthrob, handsome man? And he is. But
Let's
then
be clear.
I really liked his acting. I really did. I really liked him. There were some really great moments. The scene with him and Cynthia in the forest. And then I loved the scene at the train station with him. I enjoyed him and I thought he was great. His character was good. I think, again, he has a great act too that no one knows yet. So eventually we'll get there.
All right. Well, speaking of Act 2, I think this is a good point to say goodbye to our listeners. And we will, unlike Wicked, not take a whole year to get you the next episode. However, we will have to make you wait a week. So thanks.
That was a good transition, Christopher.
Thanks for listening, Charno fans. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram at Charnopher Official. Check out uncommonpod.com to maybe learn more about us or get some merch. And on that note, Charnopher and Tylor.
Charnopher and Tylor and Elphie. Oh, we didn't even talk about that.
Nope.
That's next episode. That's next episode.
This concludes another episode of Uncommon Sense. If you're ready for more of this fresh, hilarious, and unique perspective on the world of entertainment, education, and life, be sure to subscribe right now to catch every episode. If you gasped, laughed out loud, or even snorted, share the show with your friends and aspiring entertainers because, let's be real, sharing is caring. For more Charnopher, tune in to their witty insights by checking out the website uncommonpod.com or connecting on social media. Tune in next week and get the real insider scoop on another episode of Uncommon Sense.